I'm Cindy Mueller. Welcome to our May 2021 Zoom weekend. This is one of my student groups that are interested in pop, original, jazz, digital, all kinds of interesting things that are available to all of us now in an exciting new musical world. I always start the recital so they can be certain that any friends and family who want to find us on the YouTube channel don't miss them. So I get started and they can connect with people to be certain they're all on. I play in the student recitals, and at one recital I do a jazz piece, and then at the next recital I do a classical piece. So I'm kind of the oddball out here doing a classical piece this evening with this group. I've chosen to play a Mozart Sonata, the first movement. And I just did a little rereading about Mozart and his life, especially knowing that I was with kids who have kind of varied interests in music and, I don't know, kind of risk-taking types. Anyway, the thing that stuck out as I was rereading a little about Mozart's life and history is he had a very rocky start. He was a child prodigy, and his father took him all over from the age of about 6 or 7, and he and his sister performed for kings and queens, and they were the rage. But when he got into his late teens and into his early 20s, Mozart wanted to leave his hometown, and he wanted to get out in the world and work as a musician. And he worked really hard at, no social media, right? How do you present yourself, advertise yourself, get yourself out there? So he traveled to all these different courts and all the places where musicians could find work. He looked, and he couldn't find anything that paid him hardly at all. He finally got a break, but not where he wanted to be. It was in his hometown, and he worked there for a while, but he was so unhappy that he finally resigned, and the person the archbishop, whoever he was working for, said no until it got really ugly, and they forced him out. And then he found himself in Vienna, and there again, it was just very tough going. So for this person that we look at 250 years later, and he's revered as one of the giants that ever lived in the musical world anywhere, it almost could have never happened just if he'd given up. Eventually, of course, somebody important in Vienna, the emperor, did hire him, and he did take things off from there. But there was a time in his life when he was pawning off his stuff. He just didn't have enough hardly to live. And so it's just good for us to remember that these people that we think were so fantastic and just these success across the centuries, they had it rough. So it's a reminder to all of us, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. You just never know, no matter what your chosen path is, what your passion is, just keep going. So that's a little Mozart story I thought would fit. I'm playing the first movement of this sonata. The first movement of a sonata always follows a certain form. So Mozart knew that he had to have two themes. So his first one that you'll hear is based on a C major chord. He took the first note, the next note, and the next note and made a theme. And it continues. And like everything else in the classical world, there were scales galore. So you hear a lot of those arpeggios, chords, and then you hear what's supposed to happen in every first movement of the sonata in the classical world, the second theme. So he took the major chord again and said, oh, let's get crafty and do it from the top down. So he had his two themes, the required amount. Then the next part of the form for the first movement of a sonata is you got to develop it. So he goes wild. And that's when the composers just had fun with anything that they had found in the first part of the piece called the exposition. They just took all over the place. Mozart takes us to G minor. Little scales. He does this back and forth between hands theme flying around. Then, according to the formula that you're supposed to use when composing first movements of sonata, you come back to the first two themes, but you're not supposed to put them in the original key. So this time, first theme comes back, key of F. Second theme comes back. First it was in G, now he puts it in C. So just like all composers all the time, Mozart had to figure out how to follow this formula. And hang on, you guys. I just noticed that Peter got kicked off, so I'm going to get him back in here. We lost Peter, but now he's back. So, with a little bit of insight into what Mozart was about in this sonata, first movement, here it is. So for our first performer this evening, I'm going to introduce Karlyn Hoon, and she is going to play and sing one of her beautiful originals, Envelope. Karlyn, if there's anything you want to say about, this piece or just writing in general, go ahead, speak if you like, or just play and sing.
So, this song, I hope my lyrics come across a little bit because, obviously Zoom is crazy. But it was written during a really organic moment, and I probably wrote this whole song in like 20 minutes. But it was written in the moment, and I was really feeling what I was trying to say. So if none of the words come through, my central message is just take care of people and take care of your friends. So this is Envelope. not the time for this. Your feet trip on your shoelaces. Too many swallowed in your place. Staying on the road, hit the cruise control. Lines between advice and becoming, just hardly reaching out, not touching, standing on the tips of icebergs on the road. You're the cruise control. If you need anything, just let me know. My door's held shut by falling snow, buried in what I can't show. The cruise control, is it not enough? The last strings of your energy lapse out of my body. Don't know what you're running on. Cruise control, cruise control, cruise control. Splinters strewn out on the floor. My friend, here is what's mine. It's yours. Can my pieces be your cure? On the road, on the road. Don't say blood, here love, I'll clean your room out. I'm empty-handed, don't take your hand for granted. Splinters strewn out on the floor. My friend, here is what's mine, it's yours. Can my pieces be your cure? On the road, on the road. Splinters strewn out on the floor. My friend, here is what's mine, it's yours. Can my pieces be your cure? On the road, on the road. Splinters strewn out on the floor. My friend, here is what's mine, it's yours. Can my pieces be your cure? On the road, on the road. Thank you.
Beautiful, Karlyn. So, Karlyn, before you leave, how old were you when you started writing songs?
That's a really good question. I was probably realistically like 7, like, you know, on my little Razor scooter, like singing. But I probably wrote my first like real song when I was 10-ish.
And you have any idea how many you've written?
It's between like 20 and 30. Might be more than that.
Well, I love hearing you do anything, but originals to me, that's I'm not a lyrics person. I've told you this before, so I just always am so moved by the idea that you have those lyrics and then set it to music. So I love what you do, and I envy that you have that going on.
I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you sharing this evening. So next this evening, we're going to hear from Peter Blay. And at the moment, what he is going to play for us is called Peter's Untitled Surprise. So, Peter, I'm just going to turn it over to you, and you can share what's been going on with this piece.
Kind of a paradox, isn't it? The title is Untitled. The reason it's Untitled is when she was making the script, this still was not very firmed up. It was not completely firmed up until our lesson 2 days ago, honestly. But so what I'm going to be doing is I've written a little theme. You're probably going to hear it many times throughout this piece, and just generally I'm just going to be changing up the structure. Even I don't know what I'm going to play right now. I'm just going to kind of see what happens. But I have a general structure laid out in my mind. In fact, I wrote myself a few notes to help me out to make sure I don't forget the structure. You see my lovely notes here I've written. It's going to help me out a lot. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm turning on the original sound thing. We just discovered you would never known how to do this before the digital age. Zoom features.
since the last time I heard it. That's very cool. So, Peter, before I let you go, this was just so interesting. When you did your test run of just to sound check before we went live, I heard your theme and I thought, you and Mozart. Right out of the major triad, right? And the other thing is, and I know that that you talked about this too much, but what you were working with in this is a blend of your musical self, because we heard that. So talk a little bit about that.
This is the kind of beginning is it was a lot of classical at the beginning because this kind of represents everything I've ever done in music almost. There was a lot of blues, there was jazz, but I've taken classical piano for 11 years now, and so there was the classical base. That was the foundation of everything, and that was kind of what the end was as well. So.
Well, and you kind of came back. You started with that, like you call the. I mean, you heard that in the Mozart that I played, and then I heard the ragtime.
Yeah, that was kind of new.
Yeah.
And then the best part was I don't know if you heard I included a jazz standard actually in the middle.
What?
And what's ironic about that is the standard was called Bye Bye Blackbird, and that was what I was originally going to play for this recital.
Yes, we have, and I heard something that I really hadn't heard before was a little Jerry Lee Lewis. It seemed like got in there a little bit.
I was working on that earlier today. I thought it sounded cool.
Yes, that was a cooler thing. And the other thing, just like Mozart, you took it to minor at some point.
Yeah, I only discovered that about 20, 30 minutes ago.
Well, like I said, there are things I heard in it today that I'd never heard before. So it's kind of an interesting way to approach a piece where you kind of have an outline, but you're finding new things all the time. It's like constant composition. And this is an example of you could leave it as an improvisation, or you could work it further and turn it into a composition, kind of depending on, what's fun to do.
I'm not sure. I don't think I could have done it without my notes. Those were very important.
I think, yeah, that was the secret. I'm glad you had those with you. Well, it turned out great, Peter. Thank you for playing it for us this evening. So I am going to now introduce our next player, Adam Livay. Adam is going to, Adam, just tell him what you're going to do. It's all yours.
So through the magic of YouTube, I ended up a longtime subscriber of a YouTube channel where the main presenter mentions a game that he seems to have played and that he wouldn't show us any gameplay footage of. I know, that's just a travesty. But he at some point hinted to this music and uses since a while ago a remix of it as his outro music on his end card. But I took the original music. Some while ago, I made it into a piano roll using LMMS. You may know me from previous editions of these Zoom recitals where I created piano rolls with instruments that either sounded the part or didn't sound the part. The automaton and the crunchy leaves on the first edition. Anyway, I made that piano roll, and then I found out there's software that exists called Musescore, which, as the name might or might not suggest, lets you generate musical scores. You can actually set a MIDI file that you can get out of other piano rolling software, or you can write from scratch, but there are full-fledged scores with all the tools you want for making lead sheets, for making grandstaff. You can make several staves if you want to add it to a chorus or an orchestra. The bounds are limitless, so I didn't use the tools. I literally just made a piano score, and I'm going to share the arrangement that I scored today. It's just... Now remember, I'm not the computer, so it's not going to sound like a computer played it, for better or worse.
great, Adam. Just sounds great. So, can you, let me see here. I'm having trouble getting back and forth to your screen, but I got it figured out. So, I'll take you over the computer any day when it comes to hearing it. So now you're going to tell us and show us a little bit about how you scored it. Am I right?
Yes, I'll show you a little about the scoring. Let's see if are we live?
Yes.
Great. So what you see here is a different arrangement that I was working on at the same time and immediately abandoned. That's also based on an old piano roll I did. I only recently evolved to actually scoring. I'll talk about this. In fact, I'll use it later as an example. But so this is the Bandit Radio arrangement as it appears inside the editor and pretty much as it appears in the PDF, except for this invisible break and the outline on this note. All of these items are movable, so I can grab it. I can make a hot mess of things if I really wish. All of these are individual components. This isn't images that are stuck together like in an image editor. So everything's dynamic. Everything can be undone, redone. You can manipulate pretty much everything that you can think of when you're setting any of this type. All of these notes, as I said, they're objects that you can move around. You can dynamically set what needs doing. There's so many tools, I simply cannot and will not show you them all, but you can basically lay it all out for the player. I can attach tempo markings. In fact, this is what I am going to toot my own horn about compared to other people that use Musescore. This is a service where you can put your material online almost as if on social media, and people can either download and play it, or they can modify it, or they can just lambast you in the comments. I have not yet elected to put it online because I don't think I'm ready for said comment lambasting, but I'm pretty sure I'm above the competition, as it were, for people's clicks, because I have taken the time to use the tools and add fingering, add dynamics, add a note at the bottom that might come in handy and it might not. That's basically the whole software. Now let's say I'm bored of being all bandit-like. I'm going to revert this to the way it was. I'm going to open a new project. Yes, you can... Hold on. Do you even see the little wizard dialogue? No, you don't. So let me just...
Well, let me just say, Adam, having looked at Musescore, yours is already way better looking than most of what's out there and more accurate. So don't feel shy to go post that thing when you're ready. Get it out there.
Well, now you should be able to see this Musescore wizard.
Yep.
Hopefully, if I've done my settings right. All right, so let's say we want to write some more music. Just kind of warming up the crowd again, picking in the audience. How do we want to title it?
That looks good.
I tried to write good morning. My keyboard does not want to play ball. I've titled it Good Morning, and I'm subtitling it as It's Not Morning. The composer that we all know and love that's come back and write this is Cindy's Recital People. Misspelled.
It's all right. God, it fits me. It's all right.
Now, here we are at the fun part. We can pick what sort of score we're actually making. Are we making just a treble clef? Are we making just a bass clef? Do we need a grand staff for our things? Are we writing for a whole 4-part chorus? Do we want a barbershop quartet of all things? You know what? Yes, we want a barbershop quartet to sing it. We want to sing it in key of G. That's definitely where we're going today. Barbershop quartet in G.
Sounds good.
Waltz time. Yes, there's too many buttons. It's like being a kid in a candy store. We've generated the thing. We've only got 32 bars to play with, but no matter. And no, they won't stay this small. The beauty of Musescore is that it's all dynamic. I can enter note entering mode. I can can just spam notes all over the page. In fact, I can make them different lengths. I don't know how this is going to sound. It's probably going to not sound like anyone deserves to have heard it.
That's okay. You're giving a great idea of just how you can.
Now, I don't know what tempo it's set to, but let's try listening to it. Truly a masterpiece of our time, I'm sure.
I think that sounds very much like some of my mornings.
Top of the charts.
There you go.
Hey, can you cut me a deal with your record company?
Well,
Here, just to make sure that it's preserved for posterity, I'm going to export some uncompressed audio of it being played. No, I'm not. Being played automatically by the machine. Or, you know what? Who wants a printable PDF score? I don't. I'm going to revert all my changes because I'm thoroughly embarrassed. Now, let's say I actually have a tune in mind. I'm gonna just put down notes. That's not the note I wanted to put down. Using a trackpad is hard. Now, it's going to limit you to 3 quarters because, you know, you've put in a 3/4 time signature. Now, problem with this note. It's on D natural. I don't want it on D natural. I'm going to use the arrow key to put it down. So now, I've got a note. And, you know, do that 40,000 more times and not select barbershop quartet, you'll end up with something like this. Yes, that's a gliss. You can put glisses in your score.
That's pretty cool. Well, Adam, thank you so much. I mean, I was talking with Karlyn about this a little bit. You just don't know when you need a part for a cellist, or so Musescore is there and it's free and bingo. Or Peter may decide to score his entire composition that he started today in semi-improvisational form.
Yeah, Peter, you can't keep that to yourself. We want to be able to try and aspire to your greatness. We want to be able to try and replicate the stunt.
There you go.
Well, I need my my 50% profits go to my tech designer though.
We're denying you royalties. This is how it works now. You give us the music or else.
See, this is what Mozart went through right here, the bickering to make it happen, It's just the way it goes.
We need background music for our flight simulator.
Yep.
So you guys, before we leave the live stream, I do want to give Karlyn a chance to plug her YouTube channel, where you can hear a lot more of her original her original music. So Karlyn, unmute yourself. Tell us the name of your YouTube channel.
Okay, hold on. I don't remember it. Give me a second.
Put it in the chat. This is when you have so much creativity. It's just like, whatever that was, it'll come back again. I know you, Karlyn.
Sounds like it belongs in the Onion. Musician forgets what the business is called.
But if you search my name, Carlynhoon, and you put the word afloat after it, AFLOAT, I have an EP out. So that's on YouTube. And
hey!
That's also on Spotify, and I think it's pretty good. I've written better stuff,
publishing.
But it's,
Good for you. So could we find you on Spotify through your name?
Yes.
And Afloat? Mm-hmm. Or YouTube? Great. Well, yes, I'm glad that we got a good plug-in for your music. So there you go. You streaming live world. You know how to find Karlyn. Karlyn Hoon. HOON. Afloat, one word.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you again, all three of you. This is just such fun for me to see all this young creativity at work in so many different directions. It's what it's all about. Thank you, parents, for supporting your kids in all these fun adventures. Thank you, those of you who are watching us on our live stream. we're going to say goodbye for now.